early morning in Joal, a small fishing village in Senegal, and every day fishermen like Madad Husseini, his children, and a crew set out to sea. Senegal's fishing industry is on the decline because her fish stocks are decreasing. The invasion of foreign trawlers means Senegalese fishermen are struggling to survive, a state of affairs which is threatening to devastate the entire region. With fewer fish in the sea, the fishermen are resorting to making their money out of turtles. Many observers believe that soon in developing nations, fish will be a luxury. For countries like Senegal, this would be a catastrophe. Fish is a fundamental part of their diet and a most important source of protein. Without fish, there would be widespread hunger in Senegal. Madadou Seni lives with his 3 wives and 20 children. As they now have to sell their dwindling catches to survive, fish to eat is becoming rarer. There are now fewer fish and fewer kinds of fish compared to what we used to have. The big boats are catching everything. We've had accidents with foreign ships where they come too close to the coast and our nets get torn. Because most fishermen are illiterate, the government does what it wants. Madadou Seni is referring to the EU Supertrawlers whose governments recently paid the Senegalese state $13 million for the rights to fish in her waters for 4 years. 50% of that income was earmarked for the harbour's redevelopment and the local fishermen, but they say they received nothing. We're very happy with the agreement between the EU and Senegal. I don't know anything about fishermen who are against the deal. The Spanish are happy because 3 out of 4 trawlers here are from Spain. Attracted by the quality of the fish stocks, they use ground dragging nets which damage the seabed and fish breeding grounds. The Senegalese people are seeing the source of their food damaged forever. I assure you that the contract between the European Union and the Senegalese government was very responsibly negotiated. Fishing isn't a luxury for us. It means life or death. But many Senegalese fishermen do feel the government is exploiting them by selling out to the Europeans. The fishing agreement should be cancelled immediately. We can't control it. There has to be research into the fish populations. Our fishermen here aren't profiting from the contract with the European Union. According to the contract, the European trawlers are allowed to fish within Senegal's 300-mile territorial waters, but must leave 12 kilometers to the 11,000 traditional fishing canoes. The EU trawlers are also required to employ local workers, but the Senegalese authorities either lack the money or willpower to enforce these conditions. The indigenous fishermen are furious that it's becoming more and more difficult for them to earn their living. Up to 50% of Senegal's coastal workforce are employed in the fishing industry. Any changes in fish stocks directly impacts upon the Senegalese nation. Fishermen until recently say they used to need 24 hours to fill their boat with fish. Now they have to be at sea for up to 10 days to secure the same size catch. The fishermen who sided with the EU agreement are being paid by the government. There's less fish now. Of the 10 kinds of fish that we used to catch, there's only 2 kinds left for us. The super trawlers fish until the sea's empty and then clear off. We don't get anything. The export operation is in danger of destroying the country's subsistence economy. The super trawlers are supposed to fish beyond a 12-kilometer exclusion zone, but as stocks diminish, they're fishing closer to land. In the fight for fish, there have been accidents between the Senegalese and European boats. My canoe sunk after a collision with a Greek boat at 3 o'clock in the morning. We didn't have a light. I lost everything. I brought a court action against them, but it came to nothing. If we have a collision with one of the big ships, they often turn their lights off, so we can't recognize them and they can't be identified. We lose our boats, our nets, simply everything, and we can't do anything about it. Over 50% of fish consumed in Europe comes from third world countries. Around 1,000 trawlers from the EU regularly fish off the coast of Africa. The EU had negotiated 15 fishing agreements to secure valuable access to fish stocks, but now some African countries are not renewing these agreements and are investing in their own industries. But it may be too late. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization estimates that 70% of conventional fish species may have been wiped out. And a shortage of fish means price rises. In Senegal, nearly 1 in 3 of the population are undernourished. Just before the rainy season, there's a lack of fish, particularly sardines. The price is too high. I have to pay much more than I used to. Some accuse the government of having no vision and say that in return for greater exports, all they're creating is a nation of hungry people. But the government insists the fish stocks can cope. In many parts of the world, like in the European waters, there's hardly any fish left. Luckily, we still have fish stocks. The government takes responsibility to check them. But some species are causing us concern. This is a survey ship, which is funded by the European Union. Its official role is to regularly check the fish stocks near the Senegalese coastline. But all the technology in the world can't account for how the data is used. The Oceanographic Institute in Dakar only quotes data for processed fish and doesn't include the large quantities of undersized fish which are discarded. The total number of fish caught could be double the amount they quote, throwing into doubt the whole basis for the EU contracts. Meanwhile, the European Union keeps a low profile and says their catch doesn't harm the local industry. But it's clear to observers that fish in Senegal is becoming scarcer. When so much of the country survives on fish and fishing, it seems a false economy and unwise at best to allow someone else to take their lifeblood away.